Welcome to Open Your Reality. I've got a blockbuster of a video for you today featuring Tom Campbell. And this one tackles something we all face: suffering. If life's challenges have been difficult recently, if you're depressed, sad, or feel beaten down by the system, this is the video you need to watch. I promise you, if you really listen to the information that Tom says here, this video will change your life. In this talk, Tom gives the best explanation I've ever heard regarding why we suffer and what we can do to make our lives better. Once you understand the bigger picture of our reality, you'll have a completely different perspective of why we face so many challenges in life. This brief talk from Tom really helped me, and I believe it can do the same for you. If you come away from this video feeling a little better about your life and its challenges, then I've done my job. Okay, without further ado, let's get into it.
We know that there is a lot of dysfunction here and the suffering, but that suffering is us making poor choices. The system didn't say, oh, I'd like to build a world of suffering because suffering is really cool, and I'm a masochist and I love to see suffering, so I'm going to make this world that's really, really full of suffering. It didn't work like that. The system needed to evolve, needed to expand the rate at which it was evolving, which was very, very slow in this limited chat room environment it was in. Couldn't evolve very well because the choices were not challenging. The choices were to communicate or not to communicate. That was it. There was no consequences, whether you communicated or didn't communicate. Or the consequences were very minor. So within that realm, evolution, growing to become love, growing to make it about other, was very, very slow. So that's why this reality was created. A reality with a tight rule set where all of one's choices affected everybody else, where everyone's interactions made, consequences for them and for others. Well, now you've got a place where your choices are really important. And because we weren't very grown, because we'd been in the chat room for a long time, when we finally got to a place that had challenging choices, well, our ego and our beliefs and all of that stuff just was right there. So we made a lot of poor choices, and we're still making poor choices. But as a whole, humanity is evolving and growing up the quality of their consciousness. Go back 500 years and see how cheap life was compared to now. You don't have to go even that far. Go back 300 years and you'll see that the place was a lot tougher, harder, unfriendlier than it is now. We're making progress, but progress is slow because evolution is slow. But the good news is that as you make progress, it's easier to make more progress. So your progress curve starts out very, very slow and then gets steeper and steeper. So we're now kind of on that knee of that curve over the last couple of 100 years, where we're on that curve where it starts to, take off and go. This is not the time to want to bail out of the experiment just when it's starting to get interesting and pay off after 200,000 years of living in a warlord environment. Now we're doing better than that, at least some places in the U.S. and in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. We are improving overall as a species. Doesn't mean that everything we're going to do from now on is going to be terrific. We still have to grow up, but the experiment is working, I should say. We are evolving, and at a much faster rate than we were in the chat room. So this is a good experience, and not having any humans just basically gets rid of the point in the experiment to begin with. That's why this virtual reality is here. It's here for critters as well as people, for individuated units of consciousness to make choices and grow up by making those choices. Okay, if you're a bumblebee, you get to make some choices and you can grow up according to those choices. But you don't grow up very much if you're a bumblebee because your decision space is small. You have just a few choices that you make. maybe 100 choices or something. But if you're a human, you've got huge numbers of choices, things you can do. And as we evolve, those number of choices just get bigger and bigger. So a human today has a lot more choices to make than a human did 500 years ago. A lot more choices, you see. So as we evolve on this path, the consciousness that has a large enough decision space to want to play a human avatar has some place to work. Otherwise, without the people, we'd be back to bumblebees and clams and monkeys and a few other things that had much limited decision space. And the whole system would be chugging along at a much slower rate. Now, there's nothing wrong with those things going on a slow rate. That's the way that consciousness evolves. It may, by making good choices, work its way up the chain to go from one species to the next and end up eventually growing up to the point of having a big enough decision space to play a human avatar. But it's all part of this process, and humans are part of it too. To look at it and say, well, it's not a nice place, therefore we should end it, that is very short-sighted. I agree, it's not a nice place, but it's getting nicer all the time. Now, that doesn't mean that there'll be a decade where it gets less nice. It just means that overall, in the long term, it's getting better. And if you're fearful and negative about it, and your whole idea is, oh man, this place sucks, and humans suck, and it's such an awful place, and if there is a God, he's really mean, and has a bad attitude. If you have that negative viewpoint, then you are part of the problem, not part of the solution. If you have a positive attitude where you're here to meet challenges, to grow up, to make the best choices you can, to deal with all the dysfunction with caring, to deal with it with compassion, not with anger, you see, then you're part of the solution. So the negative attitude is one that is not helpful. It actually holds us back and keeps us from growing up. If everybody had a positive attitude, hey, let's make as much of this experience as we can. Let's be as helpful and as positive as we can. Well, we would all take a couple of giant steps forward. And as long as there's a whole lot of us going, oh, woe is me, this is so terrible, whoa, 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 that's generally your ego talking, because your ego is feeling like it's not given a fair shake, it's not in a place of peace and tranquility and happiness, and you just like to end it all. Well, that is a part of the problem. That negativity helps feed things that then are ugly, feed things that are not nice. And if you keep on that path, you're liable to end up being depressed. And then when you're depressed, you'll hurt a lot of people, mostly the ones you love. And it's just not helpful. So I'd say look for a better, more positive attitude toward your life. Okay, this world has a lot of dysfunction in it because we're not that grown up yet. But this dysfunction isn't because the system made a world full of dysfunction for its amusement. This dysfunction is here because of us, because we are dysfunctional. Getting rid of us is not the right answer. Getting rid of us is a very short-sighted answer that kind of throws a monkey wrench in the whole consciousness evolution scheme. Growing up is the answer. Instead of feeling negative about it, turn around and see what you can do to become love, to become caring, to become compassionate, to get rid of the ego and get rid of the fear, and then you will be making the optimal contribution to this world becoming a nicer, better place. So that's probably not at all what you wanted to hear, but that is at least my opinion on it.
I hope this video sheds some light on why we suffer so much and how to make our lives better. The good thing to know is that we're all evolving on a collective level. Everyone will get there in time. If I could only give you 3 quick Tom Campbell pieces of advice, it would be make better decisions, work on evolving towards love, and forgive yourself. I want to thank all the new subscribers and the people that comment. The channel is growing rapidly, and it's all because of you guys. Commenting back to everyone is becoming a challenge, but I try. Some of you have asked me to create a Patreon page, which I did. The link is in the description. I've never asked for support for the channel, but if you'd like to give even $1 per month, it would be greatly appreciated. All funds would go towards improving the channel, and I'd be able to post videos more often. If you enjoyed the content, come on and subscribe and click the thumbs up button. Don't be afraid to drop me a comment. Let me know which subjects you want me to make a video on next. Check out a couple of my other cool video creations right here, and see you in the next one.